What is up, everybody? Welcome back, and this is my review of episode 9 of Convicting a Murderer. It states that this episode is about chilling prison phone calls from Brendan Dassey shed light on his troubling relationship with Stephen Avery, providing a deeper understanding of his involvement in the murder. Plus, Dassey is compelled by his own family to make critical decisions that prioritize Avery's interests over his. The episode starts with Dan on screen stating that you have to believe that law enforcement came up with this plan within hours. Actually, it's easy to believe that law enforcement allegedly came up with this plan because of how poorly it was executed and so easily able to poke holes in. And also, it wasn't hours. They had days to do everything that they allegedly did. Candy agrees with that statement. Candace Owens states, what people think happened, the frame-up job is ludicrous. She states that the thing to go with is the thing that makes the most sense. That's what I did, and it definitely is not the version that they are putting out with here. I may not agree with everything from one side or the other, but I definitely don't agree with the majority of the stuff that is being put out in this documentary, this docu-series. Thomas Fassbender says it would be impossible to have done what law enforcement did. Rick states that it would have been impossible for that many people to get on board to frame Stephen Avery, which is not even a little bit true. It could have been done by 2 or 3 people easily. They are telling a story, it seems, that people think cops killed Teresa Halbach. Now, that is not a narrative that I have ever believed. And it's not, and now I'm not going to speak for everybody, but it's not a narrative that anyone I have ever spoken to has ever believed either. So, indeed, they are talking about a situation that makes absolutely no sense. They are choosing to tell a side of a story that very, very few people actually believe, and that does make absolutely no sense. And they are saying it makes no sense because it does make no sense. They are trying to get you to believe that this is what most people actually believe, which from my experience and my talking to people isn't true whatsoever. It's never been really discussed at all with anybody I've ever spoken to. I can't think of one single conversation I've ever had with somebody. I'm not saying it didn't happen. If it did happen, it's very few and far between, where somebody came up to me and stated or wrote me a message online or whatever and thought that law enforcement was responsible for Teresa Halbach's death. I have seen that narrative out there, but it's not anything I've ever believed, and it's not anything that anyone believes that I've ever spoken to or dealt with. So the fact that they continue to push this, trying to get people to believe that this is what the majority of people think, in my opinion, is absolutely ridiculous. They show clips of Brendan Dassey talking, but they don't show what led to the answers he was giving. Just more creative editing on the part of Convicting a Murderer, or lack of wanting to show the full segment of Brendan Dassey's interview. They talk about why Stephen moved a Suzuki out of the garage. Now, it could be wrong. They show like a diagram and they show a picture, but it looks like there would have been enough room for the RAV4 to have been driven into the garage anyway. Now, this is just me looking at a picture and looking at the diagram they put up. But it looks like he wouldn't have had to move the Suzuki out anyway. It looks like there was enough room. Again, that's just me looking at a picture. I don't know. They read the letter that Stephen Avery once wrote to Ken Kratz. They talk about how Stephen Avery blamed other people, which makes sense. He's in jail. He's trying to figure out in his mind who set him up for this crime or how this crime happened, trying to figure out who did it, how they did it, and why. So it makes sense that he would attempt to point the finger at other people that he thinks could possibly be involved. They talk about how why the law enforcement could have been part of the frame-up job. They share it as a narrative that is ridiculous, that law enforcement couldn't have been involved, wasn't involved, and really had no reason to be involved. And to me, it's pretty simple. And it doesn't really have anything to do with the $36 million either. To me, it's that Steven Avery embarrassed Manitowoc County back in 1985 when he was wrongfully convicted. He could have got out in 1995, 1996, but he spent another few years in prison, didn't get out until 2003, and then filed the lawsuit. Now, Manitowoc County was embarrassed that they got it wrong and that Steven Avery was going to continue to embarrass them. And I'm using the embarrassed narrative here because look at what is happening to Amanda Knox in Italy right now. She was wrongfully convicted in 2007 and eventually got out. But Italy is so embarrassed that they got it wrong that they are retrying a slander conviction that got overturned last week to try and get Amanda Knox on anything because they're embarrassed that they got it wrong with her wrongful conviction from 2007. They talk about this as if this is something unique to Steven Avery and Brendan Dassey, this situation that they're in. This or law enforcement could allegedly be involved in a frame-up or a district attorney gone bad, allegedly, of course, but this stuff is not unique to Steven Avery, Brendan Dassey, Ken Kratz, or Making a Murderer. It unfortunately seems to happen fairly often in the United States. There are a ton of other documentaries out there where cops have gone bad or law enforcement has gone bad or the district attorney does something to get a conviction no matter what. This case is not unique. It just happened to get a documentary made that aired on Netflix, which made it extremely popular. Candace Owens talks about how Kayla Avery is the one that put Brendan Dassey on the map. Kayla talked about how when she was being interviewed by Thomas Fassbender and Mark Weirgert that they were overwhelming when they were asking her questions and told her that she was lying when she was providing them answers to the questions. Now, Candace Owens asked why Kayla changed her statement when she was on the stand. Maybe she didn't change her statement. Maybe she was now just telling the truth, and this isn't what investigators and prosecutors wanted to hear. Len Kaczynski appears in the documentary. He was Brendan Dassey's original attorney. They air a clip of Judge Fox stating that Brendan Dassey wasn't coerced. They talk about how Brendan was read his Miranda rights and was free to leave at any time. Do you really think that Brendan Dassey understood any of that? Do you think he understood his Miranda rights? They air a clip of Mike O'Kelly with Brendan. This guy is a giant part of the problem of what happened with Brendan Dassey. And he's quoted as stating this: do what's right and you will not do life in prison. Which to me means, AKA, tell us what we want to know and you'll be fine. Len Kaczynski states he regrets hiring Mike O'Kelly. They talk about how Len Kaczynski allowed Brendan Dassey to be interviewed without him being present, talking about how he let Brendan Dassey be interviewed without a lawyer being present. It's pretty clear that Brendan was lying the first time around when he was telling investigators a story, but now he's trying to tell the truth, and the officers won't let him. Allegedly, of course. It looks plain as day that Brendan was just telling a story that police wanted to hear the first time around. And when he was honestly telling the truth, they didn't want to hear it. They air a phone call between Brendan Dassey and his mom, and it sounds like he is just telling her the things that police wanted him to say to her, allegedly, which is, in his mind, helping himself. He told the truth. They didn't like it. They figured out a way to get him to say what they wanted, and to push it home even more, they told him to call his mom and tell her the same thing. Maybe, allegedly, it's definitely what it seems like to me. Thomas Fassbender states he believes Brendan Dassey went into the house. Okay, prove it. Show me one bit of information, show me one bit of evidence that Brendan Dassey was ever in Stephen Avery's trailer during this crime. Heck, show me any evidence that Teresa Halbach was ever in Stephen Avery's trailer, and then we can have a very different conversation. Show me anything that Brendan Dassey did this in Stephen Avery's trailer. Show me one bit of evidence, DNA, blood, hair, anything. Show me anything. They think that Stephen Avery is this master manipulator, that he's so good that he's controlling all of this situation from behind bars with recorded phone conversation. He couldn't even clean up, in their mind, he couldn't even clean up a crime scene correctly, but yet they also think he is a mastermind criminal. Make it make sense, guys. I'm begging you, make it make sense. Dan mentions that making a murderer left out parts of Brendan Dassey's confession. So is convicting a murderer. Man, these guys never look at the fact that they are doing the exact same thing making a murderer did. You guys aren't showing all of Brendan Dassey's interviews or interrogations or anything either. Just carefully selected clips to show your version of events. Thomas Fassbender states, I didn't expect this to be coming up years later. Thomas Fassbender, I bet you didn't. They air clips with the Making a Murderer filmmakers calling themselves storytellers. Yes, that is exactly what they are. Even people that make documentaries are storytellers. That is also what Sean Reck is. He's the creator, the driving force behind Convicting a Murderer. He's telling a story, his version of the story, or better yet, maybe the version of the story that he thought would make him the most amount of money. Allegedly. But that's all either one of them are, is a story. You can't believe and get all of your information from one docuseries on Netflix or one docuseries on Daily Wire Plus. You need to watch both of them, one of them, anything, and then go do your own research and then come up with a version of events that you believe. That's all that needs to be done. Never take one documentary as the gospel. Watch it, and if you're interested enough, have a look into things and see, be like, oh, so this didn't happen like that from either side. That's what I did, and that's how I came to the opinion that I have. Let me know what you think. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you again soon.